Do you see that?
Do I see what?
Putting on some bronzer so that the folks that watch this on YouTube can enjoy my face.
As opposed to without bronzer?
I feel like I look like shit.
End of statement.
Actually, I'm like lately, I don't know if you go through this. There's like months where I'm like, I'm doing okay. And then there's other times in my life where I'm like, this is not working for me.
It's less about weeks at a time and more of like moments in a day. When it's 11:30 at night, I smoked a little too much weed and I ate an entire box of chicken and biscuit crackers. And the whole empty box is like sitting on my big fucking belly. And then I say, I think I've wrecked this body.
Yeah.
I think this one's done. It's time to swap it in for new parts.
The feeling of guilt and shame.
Yes.
I heard somewhere on a Instagram video from a person on a podcast that probably has absolutely no reason to be interviewed. They were saying that shame is like the most hurtful feeling.
Yeah.
It's not anger. It's not frustration. It's not like rage. It's like actually shame is really painful and hurtful for the body. I don't think I feel shame very often.
Really? Oh, God, Joanna, welcome.
I don't know.
Shame is an ever-growing feeling in my life.
That's not true. That's not true. I'm an idiot. My ADD, when I forget something, when I forget an appointment, when I forget my car keys, when I feel a lot of shame. But isn't it funny that I was like, I never feel shame, and then you
realize that I do at every point in turn.
Kris and Joanna are close friends with nothing in common. To start a weekly conversation, they ask, "Can I have a word?"
So you feel shame a lot with your actions to yourself?
Oh, Joanna. This is ultimately what it is that I am a person that's very hard on myself.
This is true.
When things happen in my world that could have been avoided, I take on the responsibility as like the knee-jerk reaction of like, it's on me. And so with that comes like a bunch of shame. And also, like, sometimes it's not my fault, but it feels a little easier to say it's like my fault. And I do find that when I feel like I'm holding the weight of the world on my shoulders a little bit more, I get more accomplished.
I get more You feel more accomplished?
I know I get more things actually done.
Oh, when you're like, if I don't do this, the world will crumble.
Yeah, which maybe is very egotistical considering what I need to do today is edit a video about pancakes.
Oh, how fun. Do you enjoy your job?
Good God, what are we doing all the heavy things now?
Why don't you tell the audience what you do?
These days, I edit for, am I allowed to say the brand? I guess you say you work at Disney.
Make a fake brand name.
Phone Papa Pete.
Phone Papa Pete. You edit for Phone Papa Pete. Okay.
Yeah. No, I edit for Bon Appetit and Epicurious. I make pilots for food shows on their YouTube channels.
I'm sorry, but don't you get aren't you perpetually hungry? Like when I watch Top Chef, I have to be eating.
I am constantly hungry.
I can't. Your brain is just getting those synapses and those you're being shown food.
The times that I'm reprieved from that is when I'm doing videos that have like butchery involved in them.
Ew.
Because then it's like, now you're seeing literally how the sausage is made.
Oh my God. Yeah, no.
Or like I did a video that was somebody reviewing like every cheesesteak place in Philadelphia in like 2 days.
Oh my God.
And I just kept ordering cheesesteaks from DoorDash.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
I was so hungry for them.
I wonder how much of hunger is your body asking for it, or it's like receiving a stimuli like smell. If I smell bread in a toaster, I need to eat that.
Yeah, absolutely. Smell is a big trigger for me. That like if I smell like something like on a grill or like sear, I get
Yummy.
very, very, very hungry.
You're hungry boy? Well, speaking of hungry boy, Kris.
Was that a transition?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I said is that you want to get to the show, which is Can I Have a Word? A show where we take a random word from a random word generator.
Wait.
What did you just do?
I just broke my bracelet. It completely broke apart. All the pieces have fallen on me. Perhaps a metaphor for what I think life is, and then it being confronted with the reality of the chaos of my actions.
Well, you felt shame now.
Oh my God, I'm so ashamed I broke this. I'm sorry, continue with the prompt of the show.
This is Can I Have a Word? We take a random word from a random word generator, and we use it as the prompt for our discussion for about an hour.
I'm sorry.
You really can't recover from this. Was this like a handmade thing that was made for you out of love?
Yes, my husband made it for me. He made it with beads, and it said "read more." It was kind of passive aggressive, actually.
Oh, I'm so sad that my husband barking an order at me via craft is broken now.
I was like, "Why did you get me this?" He's like, "I don't know. That's what I decided to put on this thing." Because he had to do it for work. They had to make friendship bracelets. He's like, "I guess I'll give it to my wife." I'm like, why don't put my name on it? You put "read more." Like, anyway.
I just love that your husband works in entertainment finance and also had to do a craft.
Hey, when you work in entertainment, you got to do some wacky stuff.
Fucking woo-woo bullshit.
Some weird people. But you know what? That bracelet not only gave me shame when it broke, it gave me shame every time I read it.
It's almost as if the word is shame today, but it isn't. You were asking me a question?
Yeah, can I have a word?
Yes, word time. The word is player.
I really hate that word.
Well, wait, which context are you taking that word?
Immediately, I grew up in the early 2000s and 90s. So player, like don't hit the
player.
player. He's a player. Like I feel like that word. It'd be like all the girls in my school would be like, "She's a slut. She's a whore," and then like Quinn, who was actually mistreating women and was just an awful person to girls, would be a player.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so baseball player, football player, you don't say tennis player, right? Or you do. Tennis player.
You say tennis player.
I'm so great at sports. And then it's like slut. Like, come on. It's the inequity is if a woman was called a player, I would be okay with it.
Yeah, player in that sort of context is like this machismo, alpha dog, masculine sort of thing that's to be looked up to. And there is not often a female equivalent for that.
No, it's like man-eater.
Right,
it's
which
like,
is still like all in service of a man.
It's always in service of a man. It's not, a man has a chessboard or like a man is playing a game.
Yeah.
Like in Spanish, I remember having a discussion with my cousin about this because in Spanish, there's this word conquistando and it's to conquest. So when men are like trying to date a woman, they're trying to conquistar, they're trying to conquest. And my cousin, who's studying sociology, was like, that's a really sexist term. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, because women are like land.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. But then I started thinking when I was a teenager. And I'm like, I'm not the type of girl who like immediately gets men's attention romantically and sexually. I feel like I'm a slow burn.
Sure.
Like people that I've usually been in a relationship with are people that first are my friends and then they're like, oh my God, I think I have feelings. But I'm not the type of girl that walks into a club and men are like, that I'm going to marry that girl. They're like, right. That girl's actually in the way. I need her to move.
And also, no one sees a woman at a club and goes, I'm going to marry her as their first impulse on a night out.
I don't know, man. A girl can dream. So for me, I was like, if I could be a player, but not player, if I could conquistar, I would be good at it because I feel like I could be charming. Like there were guys that didn't like me from the get-go. And I was like, if you just give me a chance, maybe you'd like me back. But I couldn't because I was a girl and I had to like be coy and like wait for him to approach. But if I could have approached and I could have sent him little poems and like little gifts and shit, maybe, these men would have liked me back, but I didn't have the chance. You
had a barrier of entry that you weren't like this like out of this world 10 the way that like media has told us they have to be.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not I had friends who were out of this world 10 and would get all these guys and I'd be
right.
like, okay, I'm not an out of this world 10, but I can make you maybe laugh a little bit. I'm kind of fun. You know what I mean?
Okay, so maybe what I'm sensing is self-confidence was a little more needed.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I remember as a teenager being so frustrated. I was like, I was less concerned about how sexist the words were.
Yes.
And more concerned with the fact that I couldn't be a player.
Yeah, I no, that I relate to entirely. A lot of high school, I just wanted to be someone who like dated and who like had dates, went on. I was very into the concept of dating. And at a certain point, I was like, oh, if you're going to be that sort of player, somebody that like has this at ease, I think you kind of need to not want it that much.
Yeah, you gotta not give a
It's
fuck.
the thirsty that's unattractive.
I feel like you were incredibly thirsty.
The most. I'm fucking drowning in a desert. I'm not drowning. I was.
So you're drowning in a desert. So you found a way to drown in a desert.
I thought, life finds a way. No, I was starving for it. Like, it was a running joke in high school that if you met me for a certain amount of time, eventually I asked you out on a date.
That is the most you are so cringy. Every time I hear
so
something from your
cringy.
past, I'm like, thank God we didn't go to school together.
You met me at a way better time.
Yeah.
You really did.
I can't imagine you I can weirdly, because you're kind of obsessive.
Yes.
Like, you're like, oh, I got a hobby. This is my new life. I feel like you were like, I gotta have a girlfriend. I don't give a fuck who it is. I just gotta keep going until I strike gold.
But I will say, to like blame my environment a little bit, you don't have a lot of like emotionally intelligent conversations as a younger person in the Midwest, at least in the time I was growing up in it. I didn't really have somebody to tell me what you actually want to find is more satisfaction with yourself. You're trying to fill in a hole with other people. And what you actually needed is like have a better relationship with yourself, which came to me through college. And then I was not a thirsty fucking bitch.
I remember all the girls in my school that were really perceived as attractive and like an item of desire.
Yeah.
As the most boring people I'd ever met.
Oh, yes.
Like, I'd be like, why? I don't understand why they're so into this girl. Like, why? Like, literally, have you had a conversation with her? And then I realized, oh, no, that's not the merchandise that is being.
Yeah. No, that's not at all what they come to you for.
I met this guy in my creative writing class, and I started getting a crush on him because I really loved his writing.
Yeah.
And he apparently really liked my writing. My writing, we're very different writers. He was like very dramatic, very young adult, like very romance heavy. And I was like always like a quirky character that goes through something weird and traumatic and like weird specifics. Anyway, and we started like kind of like seeing each other a little bit. And then I brought him to my freaking dorm room, and my roommate, who was a 10 and like a 10 at like at Tufts University, which is like, we weren't the prettiest stock. We were
like a Miami 6.
It was a Miami 6, but a Tufts like a 10. And all she does is like come out to the like, the den area or whatever. And she's like, hey, I gotta go to class. Can I borrow your car? And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. Borrow my car. Yeah, I'll see you later. And she just leaves. He turned to me and said, that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Can I get her number? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? And he was like, I'm so sorry. I think I'm going to marry her.
Wow.
And I'm like, you think you, creative writing nerd, is going to go out with the hottest girl in college? Okay, bitch. He has confidence to be a player, but just didn't have the follow through. The girl, they went on a date, actually.
To look at that and be like, I think what I saw in that moment she asked you to borrow your car was like what she'll sound like when she gives her wedding vows.
It's so weird. I was just like,
I promise. It's like, whatever.
Her ennui was remarkable. Like, I cared about everything all the time. She cared about exactly nothing.
And again, I think to that point, that's part of what makes you a player.
Yeah, you gotta not give a shit.
You gotta not give a shit. If you are too in the weeds in your head about what is happening in the world, you're already off base.
Dude, this is exactly it. But like, I can't live in a world with ennui. Yesterday, I was driving home and I was like, oh my God, I want mac and cheese so bad. And I was on the phone and I was like, I love mac and cheese. Imagine if I have that passion for pasta with cheese, how can I pretend I don't care about bigger things in life? Do you know what I mean?
I completely understand. Okay, I have a problem with my silverware in my dishes right now, where we put the silverware in and they get stuck underneath the little organizer. I spent 25 minutes trying to throw knives at different angles into a box to see if they wouldn't get stuck so that I could solve the problem. I don't have any chill. I don't have any
zero chill.
I care too much about nothing.
You can't be this is why we're friends.
Yeah. Because we can obsess over the details of something other people don't want to look at.
They don't even want to look at. I remember I was gonna go out and see my ex-boyfriend at a group hangout. This is like, I was like 20. Okay. And my mom was like, Joanna, I'm going to give you advice and I want you to listen to me. And I thought she was going to say like, you just got to believe in yourself.
You were like something to really like Rally me.
And she went, just pretend you don't care about anything. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, they want to go to another place that you don't want to go. Just say you don't give a shit. They want to order a drink for you. Just say you don't care to get whatever they want. And I'm like, that is actually goes against my entire way of being. I can't just go with the flow. I don't know where the flow is going. I need to know.
You need to have a hand on the rudder as the boat goes down with the flow.
But the irony is I acted like I didn't give a flying. I remember one time I was like, it was a boat party. I'm like, I'm going to go to the edge of the boat and just sit there and just look at the horizon. But in my head, I'm like, I'm acting like I don't care right now. I'm trying so hard. So I like sit there and I'm like anxious. Actually, I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing out on the party. I want to like talk to people, but I'm like looking out. And then my ex-boyfriend came up and he's like, hey, everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just, kind of bored. And he was like, it worked on him. Like he like came and talked to me and we like hung out for a bit. And then the next party, he was actually with another girl. So it didn't really work out. But I remember being like, oh, I guess this is it. But then I started realizing that the guys that liked me although I wasn't a player.
Yeah.
Within the game, you got to play the game. So within the game, the guys that liked me that I didn't necessarily like back never liked the girl like my roommate.
Right.
Like they didn't like, I remember my boyfriend from college. I had a boyfriend in college and I was avoiding them meeting because this woman
she had without any energy exerted had entrapped a previous suitor.
Oh no, Kris, that's one of 4. It happened.
She's fucking flypaper to these people.
It happened 4 times. By the 4th time, I remember being like, I give up. Like, I don't even know what the fuck. College boyfriend met her. And I told him, I was like, you're going to really like her. And I'm just like scared for you to meet her. And then he met her and he was like, what in the fuck are you talking about? I was so bored. And I was like, oh, okay. But that was like an opening to a new world where I thought the rules of the world were this ecosystem of high school and college. And then I'm like, oh no, the world is enormous. And I'm just in the wrong space with the wrong players, baby.
Yes.
I'm playing chess when this is checkers.
Yes. You're so much better.
Dude. I can't imagine you with ennui. Who is Kris Knight who doesn't care?
I literally think I would just like wink out of existence. I think like in that absence, a vacuum would suck me in dry. All I understand how to do is be hyper attentive to bullshit that doesn't matter.
You know who has crazy ennui? My cousin.
Which one? You can say his name.
Braulio.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, I was curious when we got to player if we were going to talk about Braulio.
I don't think he's a player. I think the game keeps pulling him in, and he's like, I don't want to play this.
He is a person who has the attributes of a player. He has the ennui. His nickname amongst our group from me is a meat castle because the boy's jacked. He's so jacked. He's exceptionally jacked, Joanna. And he is just this well-postured, handsome fucking load of meat. He is a meat castle. And that guy...
And you called yourself a meat shed.
A meat... I'm where they dry age some things, but then they abandon the project, okay? I'm just rotting on a string out here.
And he's a little castle made of like
he's
tenderloin.
He's all got a moat. He's got a drawbridge. It's all castle. Anyway, he is a person that you would think it would be that sort of like vapid, nothing there, just really got to coast on his looks to get through things. And he is not. He's very intelligent, very introspective, quiet, and yet he still gets pulled into the hottest people you know wanting to be with him.
It's so funny. He'll be like, he used to be, now he's in a relationship, but he used to be like, yeah, I'd be like watching The Bachelor. And then he'd be like, oh, yeah, I think I went on a date with her. And I'm like, who? I'm like, the main bachelorette? And he'd be like, yeah. I'm like, how does that occur?
Well, it happens nowadays because the world of like online dating is geared towards people that look like him, who have that energy in their image right away that says, what's up? That's not even what it is.
It is. It's not even what's up. It's just... It's silence. We'll be at like a family event and he could just be at a corner just quietly watching and just like, I'm a moth to a flame of people, and he's just like, he's one of those fish that live deep in the water and have their own light, because they're like, they have the little light on their,
the
forehead.
anglerfish. They're just
And he's like, I just don't need you to bother me.
I'll just hang my lantern. You come here if you're interested.
I'm a clownfish. I'm like, I'm orange, so you see me, and I can hang out with a coral. So
this is good fish analogy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything.
But I do think that like there is this veneration of, like, I was just watching How I Met Your Mother. I rewatched the whole series.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a good show. I think it's well written. I cannot stand the character of Barney.
Because it feels not realistic, or because it like stings a little too much to see it be that
It's
honest?
old. It just feels aged. Like this character that like lies to women to sleep with them and then like mistreats them, and it's perceived as the coolest thing. It just feels old to me. It doesn't feel of the time. Like, I rewatch Friends and it's an older show, and I feel like it hasn't aged like How I Met Your Mother. And I think primarily because of this player character.
Right. Well, because it was very popular of the time. Like, that was the, like, the pickup artist. That was, like, a whole culture that existed in that time that was, like, we're, like, right on the cusp of incel culture, where it was just, like, desperate men who just want to idolize the idea that they can get dates because in their own lives they're not getting talked to.
It is weird. It's like there's this I felt there was a mysticism to men. Like, I was like, what do men want? And then it was like, oh, they just want the prettiest girl in the room.
Sadly, for a lot of men, like, what they want is, like, an accessory in their life. That's why the notion of, like, a chill girl is so popular. Because it's like,
God.
You don't ask of me anything?
You're just a hot girl.
You're just a hot girl, and also you're, like, down to watch sports and stuff?
Bro, I would
Wow.
actually actively kill someone if they made me watch a game with actual players. I don't want to... Listen, I think there are girls that love sports, obviously.
So topical of us, given this episode releases the week of Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see Kendrick Lamar.
Is that who's performing the song? I don't even pay attention to this at all.
I'm really into knowing what's hot in music. My boss told me this thing, and it's literally, you know how some anti-aging tips are like, oh my God, put cucumbers on your eyes, or like retinol and vitamin C. He gave me the #1 anti-aging regimen, which is you listen to the top 10 on Spotify World, Spotify US, and you research who those artists are.
Yeah.
And you try to get an idea of like what's hot and why, and you'll never be old.
It's not wrong. Like, one of the first signs that I have felt that, like, I'm getting older is how much I just keep listening or you know what it is? It's TV. I'm like, I just kind of want to watch the shows I liked before instead of watching new stuff. Oh, yeah, that's starting to, like, atrophy a little bit. Like, this curiosity for, like, new. And, like, that curiosity would keep you young because you're keeping up to date with, like, what is relevant in the world today.
It keeps you relevant, I guess, in how you're perceived, but also how you talk. Like, I talk to the Gen Z people in my kitchen, and I remember, like, there was a time where I would be like, ugh, I'm too old for this. And now I'm like, no, I'm not. I actually need to know what they're talking about. I need to understand what they're saying. I need to know who Doechii is. Like, I need to get it with the time. So that's like my little anti-aging regimen.
In exercising this regimen, I just imagine you with, like, a little notebook jotting down notes as you, like, overhear things in cafes and stuff.
I do. I sort of do. And it's so funny because I'm married to someone whose top 10 Spotify artists were Beethoven. Like, literally no one that was born after, like, 1900 is on his top 10.
With all the love in the world, I don't know that I would ever pair Daniel to pop culture.
Absolutely not. You know how, like, you're like, oh, dads never were cool. Like, dads never knew what was cool. Like, I never imagined my dad, like, listening to the Beatles. Like, I just imagine him listening to Rigoletto and, you know, his little books on tape. But he was like a teen, I think, at some point. And he was like, wanted to, you know.
I think at some point he was.
I guess. I feel like Daniel has the indomitable spirit of a dad who is cultured and that's his taste.
An old soul, as it were.
He loves classical music. He would go watch classical music by himself in college while my other roommate was taking men from me. He was going to listen to classical music concerts by himself.
What is attractive about that, and the thing that we've been kind of hammering home about this player analogy, is that, like, he knew himself.
He didn't give a fuck.
He didn't give a fuck. He wasn't trying to, like, pretend to engage with something in order to appeal to a mass. And that confidence is attractive. And it takes a while for that to, like, click in that, like, oh, that is what I actually want, is, like, real confidence that allows humility, that allows, like, not being, like, so quickly flustered because, like, you know, something bucked against trend, like, just still with themselves is, like,
it's confidence.
very attractive.
I think you're right. It's just confidence.
Yeah.
Because when you're confident, you don't care.
It's not even that you don't care. It's just that, like, there isn't the weight and concern of
Right.
not fitting into that. And not having that baggage on you means that you suddenly just, like, can exist as the most pure version of yourself.
It's not like my mom telling me pretend you don't care about anything.
Totally. No.
That's the antithesis of cool.
I mean, no, anyway, that that is to say, you two are very different human beings, but I can see immediately what is, like, attractive about him.
It just doesn't.
I mean,
he
he's
doesn't
no
care.
meat castle. Do you know?
Okay, you're obsessed with Braulio. I swear to God.
Braulio might be the discovery that I'm bi.
But you're only bi for Braulio.
Only
no
bi
other
for
man.
Braulio. Listen, I can be bi for other things, but I'm currently only bi for Braulio.
Bi for Braulio. You should have a shirt.
I need a voter pin.
You should go to Pride only with that shirt. And people are like, oh, what? And you're like, I'm only queer for one man, and it's my friend's cousin, Braulio.
Are you allowed to get a float at a pride parade to just advertise your attraction to one person?
And like, Braulio, my friend's cousin. And then anyone who knows Braulio can jump. Because I have friends that are like, how's that cousin of yours? I'm like,
Everybody that meets Braulio asks how Braulio's doing.
I'm like, I have 40 cousins. Which one could you possibly be talking about? And
know.
it's always the one that was quiet at a party.
Quiet at a party, but also wearing a gray t-shirt that looks sprayed onto his massive sculpted body. Can I offer you a complete pivot on this word?
Please, I beg you.
Because we've been talking about the sexy version of this for a long time, but there's also a dweebier version of this, which is a player of games.
I recently watched a documentary about a guy who had a pretty severe disease and disability, and so he couldn't really live life. When he passed, his parents found out that he was like a remarkable player on this online game. And he had dozens of friends, but in the game, he could be this like tall, blonde, big, burly, athletic guy who would actually go on runs in the game every morning. And he like lived vicariously through his character. But he played the game, but he played it as a version of himself.
Yeah.
So he lived his life through this character.
Yeah, like an extension of fantasy and escapism, right? But like, it sounds like that one is sort of recreating what was lost.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like people make fun of the subculture of the nerd, of the video game nerd, of the people that are living another life, and it's like it is a bit nerd. I don't know what nerdy means really anymore.
Well, it used to mean something negative, and now it just is like it's an identifier, right?
It's a nerd culture thing.
Nerd culture, and I say this as a person who fully exists in it. If you're on YouTube, you get to see behind here. I have board games all in this room. I play so many games all of the time.
I think nerds are the antithesis of players in the sense that nerds care deeply and they love talking about what they love.
Yes.
And that's the antithesis of what we've been talking about.
Lack of engagement versus way too much engagement.
Yes. Yeah.
On the two extremes.
I work at Disney. People that work at Disney and in animation, they're some of my favorite people, I have to say. I fucking love going to work. These people are so into what they do and their little hobbies. I'm obsessed with it. They're like, I'm a cool girl at Disney. I go and I'm my roommate. People are like, she just doesn't care. I'm like, I actually don't care about your figurines, but I love listening to you talk about them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. I don't want to know what a Gundam is.
But like, I think you're great. you know? Man, all I had to do was grow up at the animation studio at Disney
Yeah.
to feel like a cool girl.
I find the people that like really latch on to gaming, the ones that I like are the ones who it's like a part of their life and not their entire life. And I think that's true sort of for like anybody's like hobby.
Yeah.
If your hobby defines you, it's usually because like there's something about you we're not talking about.
Or that
But,
you're
like,
not dealing with.
Yeah, but like if it's a well-rounded part of your life that like it's just all enriching.
I would much rather hang out with a bunch of nerds than with a bunch of players. Are you kidding me? What would you
easily.
do?
There's like
What
fucking
would you
shit to
do?
talk about. No, you wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know what they do. They're all just handsome sheep.
They really are. And honestly, I have a couple of player friends that
Yeah.
are now married and whatever. But they go through life like players.
Wait, but you also let's go back to the game. You play games.
I love playing games.
What are you playing right now? What's your modern? What are you doing these days?
I'm replaying Grand Theft Auto for several reasons that I cannot explain.
One of which includes an NDA.
I have an NDA. And it's good. But I had already passed Grand Theft Auto before.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like just remembering what the world is but I've been getting back to Mario Kart.
You and I, collectively amongst coworkers, have probably put 400 hours into Mario Kart.
Oh, I think more.
It has to be. People may not know this about you. They can make some assumptions about me. You're a remarkably good Mario Kart player.
Oh my God. Thank you. I think you're a little better. Your drifting is ever so slightly
I am a power
more
drifter.
efficient.
Yes.
Like you're just ever so slightly more efficient so that you always have a little bit of an advantage. But
For the Mario Kart nerds out there, Joanna can do 200cc mirror easy.
yeah, I'm pretty good.
Pretty good.
One of my favorite thing that's ever happened to me, I don't know if I've told you this story. I was in Panama and there's this like kids hangout like space in a mall. And I went with my two nephews and there was a Mario Kart corner.
Yeah.
And they were up like doing some weird shit that I should have probably been overseeing, but I was like, they'll be fine.
You're like, I'm a neglectful aunt. What does it matter?
And then I went to the corner and I was like, oh, I want to play Mario Kart. So I started like setting it up. And this guy comes up to me and he was like, hi, would you like me to teach you how to play?
Oh my God.
And I was like, no, I'm okay. And he's like, I'll play with you and we can walk through it together. And in this moment, I was like, I'm going to play this fucking game.
I'm going to fucking beat his ass.
But I'm going to play two games. I'm going to play the game that I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play the game to the best of my fucking abilities.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I played it a few times, but I would love your advice, of course. And I went to put 150 cc's, which is like the speed. And he was like, maybe we start with 100. And I'm like, no, 150 is my favorite number. And I set it up and he's like, motorcycles might not be the best way to start. And I'm like, oh, but I love motorcycle. We start playing. I destroy him.
Just wreck shit.
He wasn't good. He has the confidence of a boy.
Yeah.
But like he didn't have the talents. And he was like, have you played this before? And I'm like, well, I told you I play this a lot. And it was just this moment of like shock for him. And he couldn't believe it. And I'm like, I want to do this like how superheroes just enter places and sort of break up fights. I want to do that, but with Mario Kart.
That reminds me of a YouTuber that I can't remember her name exactly. She's a fantastic chess player, and she has content that is just her going to like parks to play speed chess in parks, where the stereotype of who you're going to interact with is like a middle-aged guy who's going to like smack talk you the whole time that you're doing moves or whatever. And she decimates them, and they always underestimate her because she's just strikingly beautiful, and then she clowns on them.
One of the most famous poker players in the world is a woman. I forgot her name, and she sort of was at the epicenter of conversations of this phenomenon of underestimating your rival or your player, the player that you're playing against. She's brilliant. She's small, she's petite, she's beautiful, she's soft-spoken. She doesn't hide it, and she doesn't try to overact like a macho guy. She uses it to her advantage. So she goes and there's this very famous game she played where I think she won the jackpot, and she was like, how do I do this again? Like she played into this idiot persona and she beat everyone.
It's so interesting to find game. I mean, poker is a fascinating game that I don't think I've put near enough time into, but it is a fun game because ultimately you play the game by playing the rules and putting things down, but also you play in the like how you carry yourself,
psychologically.
How you psychologically play with people in a way that is so rewarding to imagine. And so like in this scenario, using everyone's assumptions against them.
Yes, I'm watching The Traitors right now on Peacock. It's my favorite. I don't know. You need to get on this game. It is addicting. It takes itself so seriously that it's funny.
I tried to watch The Traitors in the first season, and I cannot watch American reality. The fact that I am an editor means that I see the Matrix a little bit when I watch things that are edited together. The constant like sound effects stings and zoom ins on drama are like all a little too much for me.
Watch the British season.
There's a British season?
Right. And it's just all normal people, and they're like, I'm a nurse, and I want this money to get a nose job. And it's like, and it's just normal British people, and they're like, oh, it's right. And it's culturally very different. They do it in New Zealand, Australia, and the US. And you see the cultural nuances on how people play the games based off what they're used to dealing with in their own real life.
Sure.
So, in the US, it's really brash, loud leadership, and then conniving. It's really interesting. And then you have the Brits, and they're all quite quiet, actually.
Yeah.
And then, the Australians. The Australians are just all, I think they're the dumbest ones. Like, not because they're dumb. I'm not saying Australians are dumb. In the seasons of The Traitors, they are, it's either New Zealand or Australia. You're like, why are they? I think they're too nice.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's no way that she's a traitor. No, it's the wrong accent. I'm from Sydney, mate. There's no way she's a traitor. Anyway, but they play this as a game. So it's a game. It's a game of people. It's a game of deception. It's remarkable to watch because you see human nature in a very interesting way that I prefer seeing than scripted shows.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main appeal, because you're seeing something real, even if it's like they're fabricating it. You know that it happened to real people and it wasn't like crafted solely for our amusement.
And you see people play the game so differently. And I saw an episode yesterday that I was like, I can guess what these people were like in high school.
It gave you a sense of like, oh, this is the archetype you come from.
I'm like, this guy was the cool jock, and that's why he doesn't give a fuck what anyone says about him. And he's just like, and then you have this wacky girl who was the weird girl that no one liked, and she'd take everything very personally because it like opens up a wound in her. It's like, it's a study on human nature that I as a writer who literally writes characters, I prefer that over, well, it's like either The Sopranos, which I love, or reality TV. And I'm like, that's how I learn how to write for people.
Do you find yourself when you watch shows like that you're imagining, because I say this as a person who does do this, do you imagine how you would perform?
Yes.
And what do you feel like is your role you would play in The Traitors?
I think I'm someone who, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. So I'm not going to pretend I could lie well. I can't, and not because I'm like, oh, I'm holier than thou. I'm just like not good at it. Like, I get too anxious. I get too anxious. And it's like part of the game. There's nothing wrong with lying. It's part of the game. I have a hard time lying and keeping many narratives in my head to be able to. So I think how I would play is, if I were a traitor, I would like disassociate.
Yeah.
And I would be like, when I'm with people, I'm not a traitor. I know nothing.
Yeah,
I'm not a traitor.
Oh, I see.
I'm not playing it. I'm not playing the game.
You make yourself a Manchurian candidate. That you're just like, I'm going when I'm here, I'm not actually playing, and then I'll be a traitor later in my room when I think about
Severance.
what to do with all that.
This is Severance.
Yeah,
that is another game.
Right.
So I'll be like, I literally don't know, guys. I'm like so nervous. They would be like, there's no way she's a traitor. She's cried 7 times. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'd go to the room. I'd be like, I'm a traitor. Okay, now I'm a traitor. How about you?
I play a lot of board games that have like negotiation and like hidden objective work in it, which means in there inherently you're a little performative and talky, and you get to kind of have a sense of how you would interact in these environments. I find that I do a very good job in games of making people believe I'm not winning. Like I'm able to sort of like, usually like, I know what's going on. I don't have a chance here. It's this and that. I think for you, so like I can make other people feel really like big in those sorts of roles. And so I think I would find myself in like a support role to whoever's like leading one of the like, you know, parties in like a social game.
I gotta be honest though.
Until I take it over. Yeah.
Here's what I think. I'm going to paint you a picture of what Kris Knight would be on the Traitors.
Please.
You would start and you'd be like, I'm going to be incredibly strategic. I'm a board game player. I know how to do this. And then your nature of being a bit more of a director and expressing what you think in a situation is going to make you a loud player.
Yeah.
And loud players get voted off first, baby.
That's right.
And you wouldn't be a traitor. You would be an innocent.
I would be completely innocent.
Yes.
But because I'm just so talented, you have to get rid of me. No, that's what I would do. I would, if it was like Survivor where you get like the exit monologue, or if it's like, you know, RuPaul's Drag Race where you get to just be catty at the end while you're writing lipstick on a mirror. And that would be me. It would be just like, well, you know, ultimately my failing of this game is that I'm too goddamn good at it.
Yeah. That would be so you.
Listen, I get it. But next time you want to win, don't come crying when I'm not there.
You'd be like, this game's going to suck now because there's no one looking at the strategy. And everyone would be like, and we're fine.
That's the thing. Ratings go up. It improves. It's fine. Nobody wants to know it all.
It's what I say about, I feel like I would play in a way where people would be like, I just can't see her pulling this off.
Even in a game, what we're sort of saying is that if you're too engaged, you're not as attractive to be involved in it.
Bro, you're so right.
People don't want someone who's that engaged.
What do you think is at the core of that? I think it's what you said. It's like, if you're that engaged or you're trying that hard, like, do you not trust yourself? So then I shouldn't trust you.
I think it's suspicious. I think there are times when like someone is more engaged than you are. You become suspicious of either, do they know something I don't know? Or are they trying something I don't understand? And that's when you get like concerned about them. So I do understand that like not having chill makes it difficult to feel trustworthy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's even like in politicians.
Yeah.
Who was that politician? Was it Bob Dole? It was like a politician that went like, oh, he did like a Mario.
No, I thought that was Howard Dean.
I don't know who he was. He did this like little scream.
Yeah, and then immediately his popularity tanked.
Like everyone got the ick collectively. All of America was like, absolutely not. You can't try that hard. That's why Obama's so like, he's so suave. He's like, he cares, obviously, but he's like, I got you. Like, I'm not worried.
Man, I'm never going to accomplish anything then, huh?
Why? Because you're not Obama?
No.
I am starting to not care about certain things in life. I do feel incredibly cool.
Yeah. What's the thing you don't care about anymore that you used to care about?
I'll go to reunions of like in Miami of people I've known for a long time.
Yeah.
And before I used to remember like I'd get nervous and I'd like now I'm like, oh, there's people I really like here, and then there's people that I just like have nothing in common with. So what? I mean,
yeah, that's fine.
But then I think that makes them want to talk to me more. Or maybe it's because they want a job in the entertainment industry. I don't know. That might be it. A lot of them are like, hey, I have a niece who wants to be a writer. And I'm like, remember when you told me I never amount to anything? Never forget, this guy told me, we were at a party and he was like, you're never going to be famous. And I was like, well, I don't want to be famous. I just want to be an artist. And he's like, you're never going to accomplish it. You're going to get married at 25. You're going to have babies. And if you don't accomplish that, your parents are going to be worried about you. And I'm like, why did you come? I'm just trying to serve myself some punch, bitch. Like, what are you like, what is your deal? And he's like written to me since then. Like, oh my God, I love your stuff. I'm like, did you forget?
Yes.
I think he did. I think he just has
because
no
they were never engaged with their brain that much. You and I are just a different stock, Joanna.
I remember everything everyone said to me always.
And it's in my little fucking manifesto.
I seem cool, but actually at night I'm like, he fucking said I had a weird smile. I will destroy him one day.
And then it's either you make art or you become like a car bomber.
And we decided to be like, I'm going to make art because I don't know how to make a bomb. I don't have the patience. I feel like you would learn how to make a bomb. I wouldn't. I would never do it.
I'd learn how to make a bomb. I don't know that I would go through with a bomb. This doesn't feel like something I should put on tape.
I feel like you would make a bomb and then make it like a colorful bomb. You would just like kind of just destroy traffic for a couple hours and make it like a fun little thing, that would be your bomb.
Okay, I think we should wrap this up before you really go so far as to proclaim me as a domestic terrorist.
I didn't mean that. I meant that you have the talent to become one.